impacting why they're being haunted. And you need to, we're not psychiatrists or psychologists. We sometimes get those people to reach out to those people to resolve some issues, ongoing issues they've had all their life. And that's not to say that we're not saying these people are crazy, but they have some very serious things in their past that they haven't dealt with, and they need to do that. Otherwise, they're just going to keep drawing this negative type of energy to them. So it takes a lifestyle change. Sometimes it takes getting back to their faith to help resolve things. And part of what we do, too, is part of it is going in and doing the home cleansing and using prayer for that, or whatever that person's particular faith is. I like to say faith and not necessarily religion. I don't know if you catch what I'm saying there. You can have religion, but faith is your true belief, right? It's something you really believe in. So we'll keep working with some of these cases for years. It's not just a couple months. It's sometimes 2 or 3 years.
Interesting. Well, when you talk about they had prior baggage with them that could be causing the problems, can you give us an example of some of the type of baggage that you have run into?
Yeah, we run into it a lot, actually. There's a lot of people either have some serious, and this is all the cases, I'd say 90% of the cases we've done, the people that have reached out to us have things such as family rape in their background that they've never told anybody about or dealt with, that they've told us, but they won't tell anybody else. They've never gone for anybody for therapy for it, and to help, resolve those internal issues, which, when you deal with that, a lot of people they think they've dealt with it, they bury it, right? So they're dealing with a lot of anger, a lot of doubt, a lot of, was this really my fault? And it rears its ugly head every so often. But you're holding all this negativity in, all this anger, all this negativity. And I do believe, based on just our cases we've done over all these years, that negative things are attracted to that. They're drawn to it. They try to help make things worse. That doesn't mean something demonic, but it does mean, potentially something not so nice, a negative type spirit. Somebody who was maybe either been through that themselves in life and they're still hanging out after death, or they did that to people in life and they're still trying to do that in death. Then you get more of the typical hauntings where somebody moved into a home that has maybe that individual has some psychic abilities, and that's another thing. They may have some I don't want to say psychic. I don't want to say psychic abilities, but they have a connection to the spiritual realm, right? To the spirit world. They may be more sensitive to it, or they may have latent psychic abilities. So spirit reaches out to them to try to communicate with them, and sometimes spirit can get desperate to do that, to tell their story or whatever. So people can end up being scratched or bruised, and that can be mistaken for something demonic or negative, but it's really just the human spirit that's desperate for somebody's attention or desperate for help, and they're just doing whatever they can to get that person's attention. That is the other side of the coin. These people may not have any real serious issues in their life, but they may have some other things going on that makes them more sensitive to spirit, and we'll sometimes help them with that, with figuring out how to kind of control that a little bit, and maybe even just block it, so that spirit isn't trying to interact with them anymore. So we do that as well. I mean, we have people who know more about that, psychics and psychic mediums and all that stuff, that we get these people in touch with that can help them. And, we're going to do cleansings and things like that, and just try to talk to the spirit to explain to them what's, hey, you're bothering these people. And you get the people in the house to do that, just like you see on some of these other shows. And that does work. I mean, it does work. But that becomes more of a symbiotic relationship, right? You're working with that spirit to keep things quiet, right? So that can happen too.
Interesting. Have you ever ran across something that was really evil?
I've worked demonic cases, yes.
And how do you handle that compared to the other case?
I have a couple exorcists I call. Like, hey, I ran across something. I think I need your help on this one. I'd laugh about it, but it's true. I mean, I'm not an exorcist. I'm not a demonologist. I'm trying to study that right now. But I have had a lot of experiences with it, and I started getting. The funny thing is, I started getting these more negative, demonic type cases just a couple of years ago, after a good friend of mine who's a priest started praying for me to get them. Yeah, that happened. And I was like, I don't think I want you to do that. He goes, no, Jack, I'm going to do that for you. He goes, because you have the ability to really help people. And these people, these type of people who are experiencing these things really need real help. And you have that ability to give it to them. So he did. And then a year after he started doing that, I ran into my first true demonic case. And, in that particular case, the answer was, you got to get out of this particular location. It's here. It's not going to necessarily follow you if you leave this region, but, you got to get out of here, And they did, and all the activity stopped. It didn't follow them. It didn't try to keep going with them. It stayed within that property. But I do believe it was attached to that property, which is why when they left it, they didn't have the issues anymore. And that was something really, really. And that particular girl was. It was a young couple, and actually they were people I knew, and she was being partially possessed almost on a regular basis. And it happened while I was there one time. It was very strange to watch. And I had been taught some things by some of these exorcist friends of mine of different tests, little tests you can do to see what the reaction is in regards to using things like holy water or blessed items, things like that. And you can give them to the person or hand them to the person, don't tell them what they are, and watch for the reaction. And I got the reaction that they told me, well, if this is really what it is, you're going to get this reaction. And that's basically, you see the eyes change. They just go kind of black. Or even if that doesn't happen, you'll see a completely different personality change in the person. They'll get extremely angry, not even knowing why. Because you don't tell them what it is. You just say, here, I want you to hold this. And it could be a blessed metal. And they'll take it and go, what's this? And all of a sudden they're really pissed off. And they start shaking and their voice changes a little bit. Very strange things that happen. It's like, oh, okay, well, you can hand that back to me now. And then I call my friend who's the exorcist. I tell him, I got a case for you. So, and I have assisted on a couple, and it's a lot of doing prayer and over that person. And the thing of it is, even for those things to work, the person has to want your help. The actual person has to want the help. So they have to ask for it. If they don't ask for your help, there's really not too much you can do. Because what's happening there is they either want the thing that's, oppressing them, they want it to be there, or they're at a point where they can't, they're not allowed to really tell you if they want help or not. Those things are very strange. Real demonic cases are very strange. They're not a typical haunting, and it's not something anybody wants to get into.
Now,
it's not fun.
Now, James...
It's far from being fun. So, but weird things do happen to it.
Yeah. Now, James has a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I was going to say, didn't you do a case, I believe it was in New York, maybe in 2016, I think there was the lady's boyfriend, or maybe a husband. He had passed away, and he was abusing her in life while he was living. And didn't he come back in death and was doing the same thing? I mean, pretty much like raping her and stuff like that. Wasn't that? Didn't you have a case like that?
Yeah, we because of the case, we said it was New York. It really wasn't in New York. I can't tell you where it was, but because they wanted it kept quiet, so we did change the location. But yes, that actually was going on, and that particular individual continued trying to do those things after death. And that's when it becomes more really negative. Now, that wasn't necessarily something demonic, but it was something, a spirit who was very negative that was still trying to carry out what he had been doing in life. And he wouldn't leave her alone. And yeah, that was a very strange case. That actually did take a deliverance to get rid of that. I did not perform that particular deliverance. I think maybe in the show they said I did, but I really didn't. That's where things get changed, right? It's TV, right? We can't tell everybody who's involved with the story, so we'll just make it Jack Kenna. Right? It's like, no, that's not the way it was, but okay. All right, whatever. Minor things, minor details, I get it, but yes, that did happen, and we did have to do a deliverance of her as well as the home in order to help really resolve that issue. And that took a long time. It wasn't just a one and done. A lot of people think, you can come in and wave your magic wand and make it all go away. No, it doesn't work that way.
No.
It didn't start that way. It didn't start that, with one little thing. And that's another thing people don't realize. These things just don't start because of one thing that happens. It's usually multiple things, Yeah, some can start with the use of a Ouija board. Somebody opens up a portal or doorway or something like that. But it started even before that, when you really get into the people's history and what was going on. It starts with them dabbling with other things, And then the final thing is, the one big thing they do that it culminates in. But they were already trying to reach out to spirit, typically we find before that. Right? And they asked this thing to come in, not in her particular case, but I've had other cases where people have asked things to come in, and then they want to get rid of it. Right? So it's like, well, not that easy. Not that easy, I recently had an email from somebody that said, they had been using a Ouija board, and this thing is now bothering them, and could I please talk to it and tell it to stop bothering them?
Oh, boy.
I'm like, well, number one, I don't have like a direct phone line to don't talk to these things. I suppose it was something demonic, or they believe it was something demonic. It's like, I don't know demons on a personal basis. I can't just call up and say, hey, so-and-so, you want to leave that one alone for me?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I wish he wouldn't.
Really.
I wish he wouldn't have mentioned Ouija board.
What's that?
I said I wish you wouldn't mention Ouija board. I've been married 3 times. Now, Jack, this marriage is going on 43 years, but my first marriage, my wife was a practicing witch. I didn't even know she was into witchcraft in an occult. And one day I came home from work early, and there she was with a whole bunch of people with hoods on, and they had these symbols on the on the floor. It was chalk, and they had a Ouija board going. And I tell you, I realized my marriage wasn't going to last very long after that.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't meant to either.
I don't think so. Now, we need to take a break. And so, Jack, if you want to, get a cup of coffee or whatever you want to do, we'll be back in about 8 minutes with Jack Kenna on Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark. So stay tuned, and we're going to find out more what it's like to be a ghost hunter.
Eons ago, when eagles were born, the Godhead let us reign free. We were on the run and the continuum, making choices in a cosmic spree. To exalt the self or enrich the whole, a thought process that endures today. A conundrum under a naked sun of what to think or